And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Welcome to Benchley Night. It is Sunday night, the 19th of January, 2025. We can wave goodbye. We can wave goodbye to our collective sanity and wave hello to the collective Hannity, I suppose. Anyway, it is going to be an interesting next period for America, and I plan to be as resistant as possible while maintaining an excellent sense of humor. Thanks for joining us for Benchley tonight. As I like to say, it's a wonderful through line between my childhood and where we are now. My dad always used to read Benchley to us, and it has brought great joy to me to be able to do this for the last 4 years. So tonight we have two Benchleys. We have two Benchleys tonight, and we're going to start. This is going to be new, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to start with "Can We Believe Our Eyes?" And I've made slides of the figures that are in his essay. So we'll see how this works. So are you ready? Of course you're ready. Can we believe our eyes? It is pretty generally agreed by now that seeing is not believing. Along with those exploded saws, watch out for exploded saws. Watch out for exploding saws. The old friends are best, and the longest way round is the shortest way. I could kill the guy who made that one up. It cost me $8.50 in taxi fare once. The old dictum about seeing and believing has been shown to be just another flash in the pan. In fact, according to scientists, if your eyes tell you that something is so, there's a very good reason for believing that it's actually the opposite. Now, Charbonneau says hello, ladies and gentlemen. Charbonneau says hello. Yes. Excuse me, Charbonneau. In fact, according to scientists, if your eyes tell you that a thing is so, it is a very good reason for believing the opposite. This will eventually make for a lot of trouble in the world. However, all you have to do is to read the Sunday papers to see what little monkeys your eyes really are. Even the advertisements are getting into the game of confusing us with pictures showing large arrows and small arrows with captions like, "Which is the larger of these two arrows?" Of course, it's perfectly obvious. It is perfectly obvious which is the larger arrow. But when you come to measure them, you find that through some trickery, they are both actually the same size. I will put up with just so much of this sort of thing, and then I'm going to stop measuring. This unreliability on the part of visual images is only one part of nature's way of making saps out of us, her children. All right, Sharps. Settle down. Settle down. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Charbot has had many rounds of treats today, but he thinks there should be one more. Down. Back up. This unreliability on the part of visual images is only one part of nature's way of making saps out of us, her children. You may see two girls at a party or two wired-haired fox terriers in a dog shop window, and you say, pointing deliberately to one, "The one on the right is the one for me. I can tell just by looking that this is what I have been searching for all my life." If you want to know what this leads to, all you have to do is read the divorce notices or the list of wired-haired fox terriers for sale cheap. For example, take figure 1. Sharbo, cooperate. Take figure 1 of the accompanying illustrations. Which of these acorns would you say was the taller? Well, one's a hydrant, but you're not supposed to know that. You would naturally say that the acorn on the left was at least twice as tall as the one on the right. Taller and handsomer. Well, you'd be right. But when you see two objects like this in an eye test, you think, there's a trick here. I am supposed to say that the one on the left is taller, so it can't be. I'm sorry, Sharbo is now sitting in front of me, right next to the keyboard, so I've got to move the keyboard. Okay. You can't see Sharbo, but he's blocking the light. I can no longer see what I'm reading. Sharbo, he is sitting watching the screen. Sharbo, please. Thank you. Okay. Okay. When you see two objects like these in an eye test, you think there's a trick here. I am supposed to say that the one on the left is taller, so it can't be. I will say that the one on the right is, much against my better judgment. And so you lose $5. This is only one of the fascinating things that you can do with your eyes. Another is to wink one of them very, very slowly at a young lady sitting at the next table in a restaurant. And the first thing you know, the other eye will be all blue and bulging and very, very sore, owing to her having shown you that optical illusion is not everything. See figure 2. Excuse me, Sharbo. That's figure 2. Sharbo, now can you please just stay there? Okay, fine. Okay, that's figure 2, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not seeing any comments. Are people commenting? Or is it just set up that if you're on Facebook, the comments don't show up here? Or if you're on YouTube, the comments aren't showing up? Anyway, no comments. I see that 11 people are watching. All right, so that's figure 2. In figure 3, we have another common form of self-deception. If you will take these concentric circles and rotate them very slowly in front of your eyes, you will soon be dizzy enough to be quite ill. In order to rotate the circles, it will be necessary for you to buy another copy of this book and cut out the diagram with a pair of scissors. If you try rotating the whole book, you will find not only that you'll get tired very, very quickly, but that you'll be unable to read the type matter. And as the type matter is contained, as in the type matter are contained the directions for stopping the rotary movement, you may go on twirling the paper for hours without knowing what to do next. But after you've rotated the concentric circles for some time, you will find yourself believing that the thing is actually turning itself. After a while, you'll think that you're on a bicycle and you'll start working your feet up on the pedals. If you keep the thing up much longer, you will faint. Thus we see that our eyes play their pranks as well as our other senses. And the best thing to do with them is just keep the eyes shut entirely. There is a well-known case of optical illusion recorded in the files of the British War Offices at the Old Vic. It seems that during the Crimean War, a detachment of British troops was isolated in a lonely village in a clump of trees. They had nothing to do but drink a sort of mixture of heart's ease, aka absinthe, and wormwood, aka absinthe, which the local doctor put up for people who had rather be dead. Thus the days wore on. One night, when 3 subalterns were sitting around a fire and sipping this strange mixture, well, no longer strange to them, more like a mother. One, a sergeant, British spelling, Villiers, turned to his companions and said, "Don't look now, boys, but there go the Devonshire Reds," all but O'Day. The Devonshire Reds was a regiment which was stationed in Ottawa at the time, and O'Day was the only man in the regiment that Villiers knew. "I rather doubt if the Devonshire Reds are over here in the Crimea right at this moment," said Athoy, one of the 3, "but I see what you mean. It is a body of moving figures going quickly in a swaying motion from left to right, but it is my guess that those are penguins." See, there's a penguin now leading the band." The 3rd member of the party, a Lieutenant Merely, who had said nothing up until this time, still said nothing. It was later discovered that his mouth had, in some unaccountable way, sunk into his cartridge belt, making it impossible for him to talk. Furthermore, he did not care. But the 2 who had seen the passing regiment of either Devonshire Reds or Penguins argued far into the night over the phantom marchers, and finally decided that they had been really nothing but a crowd of rather ungainly sheep walking on their hind legs. In the morning, however, it was found that, as far as the sentries knew, nobody had passed through the camp that night at all. This is one of the most famous examples of optical illusion, and it is only one item in the testimony to back up the contention that we cannot believe our eyes. And if we cannot believe our eyes, what can we believe? The whole thing actually becomes frightening once you start to think about it. So I don't think about it. That is reading number 1, ladies and gentlemen. That is reading number 1. Charbonneau has settled down directly under the light, and since he is pitch black, I can barely see what I'm doing, but we're going to soldier through. Charbonneau, next time I'm going to stick you in the kitchen. What a lucky old world. When you come to think of it, the wonder is not that there are so many jammed automobile fenders, bad motion pictures, sore throats, divorces, and wars. Oh, I decided to read this tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because of the incoming administration. This is a little vote for hope, from my 10 years in a quandary and how they grew. And I'll start again because I interrupted myself. When you come to think of it, the wonder is not that there's so many jammed automobile fenders, bad motion pictures, sore throats, divorces, and wars, but that there aren't more of them. We're living in a world that is shot through with luck. That is all. The next time that you're up in a tall building looking for a place from which to jump, just take a peek over a couple of busy traffic intersections below. Then figure out how many of those drivers should be at large on the street at all, much less at the wheel of an automobile. Then make your jump. When you consider that the world is full of men who cannot stoop over to tie their shoes without bumping their heads, women to whom left and right are interchangeable as a matter of principle, young people whose parents are still wondering when they are going to develop mentally beyond the age of 9, all driving automobiles, then the logical ending to the whole situation is for all the automobiles in the world to pile up on top of one another in one big crack-up. I myself am aghast at the possibilities of such a catastrophe when I think of what might happen in my own case if nature really took its course when I am at the wheel. And there must be millions of people driving who are no better equipped than I am to guide a motor vehicle through any more of an emergency than a sudden light breeze. When I consider what would result in the way of pictorial entertainment if I, myself, were asked to direct, photograph, cut, or supervise a motion picture, I marvel at the success with which thousands of other people, many of them in my class, turn out pictures which actually hang together, make some sense, and show up on a screen. It amounts to a phenomenon not without the suspicion of black magic. Consider the number of young people all over the world who are getting married day in and day out for no other reason that someone of the opposite sex looks well in a green jersey or sings baritone, and then tell me that divorce has reached menacing proportions. The surface of divorce has not been scratched yet. We are lucky that everyone is not divorced. Look at the people in Congress or the Chamber of Deputies or the Parliament in London and listen to what they say. The only logical ending to it is that all the world is headed for dementia praecox, with all the buildings tumbling down, all the waterworks shooting up into the air, and all the citizens bumping into each other with trays of hot soup. And yet, automobiles dodge each other as if by magic. Passable motion pictures are produced. Many people stay married all their lives and actually don't seem to mind one another. And only occasionally does hell break loose entirely. It's a pretty lucky old world we live in when you consider the possibilities. And that I thought was a very, very fitting reading for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, for what we're about to endure. All right, it is time to thank the liberal snowplowing do-gooders. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be a liberal snowplowing do-gooder, 100% of the funds raised by the liberal snowplowing do-gooders go to various quixotic charities, including ProPublica and stuff like that. And you can become a liberal snowplowing do-gooder by joining my Substack as a paid subscriber. That's so complicated sounding. Some people just drop checks off at my house. You know who you are. All right, and we have to thank Carol Burning, Kate Fry, Rita Bruns. Oh, the unidentified ungulate sounding sick. I'm going to use the other one tonight. Ann Cousins. That's much better. Lizzie Grosso. Nancy Bass. Nancy Flanagan. Christina Stockman. Busy Graham. Catherine Fisher. Nancy Radzik. Deborah Lovett. Susan McNeil. Marlon Gibson. Terry Widener. MJ Brush. Jean Fry. Helen Siksek. Sonia Jackson. Jeb Hart. James Gilbreth. Cindy Baker. John T. Wilhelm in Omaha, Nebraska. Elizabeth Swartz. Martha Rowley. S.A. Dalton. My first collector ever in Bellows Falls, Vermont, Mr. Jimmy Malley. And out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he's buddying up to John Fetterman, who's buddying up to Pete Hedseth, my very, 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 very tall cousin, Mr. Nat Hunter, his wonderful wife Elise, and their little tiny dog, Ginger. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week for another Benchley night. You take good care. Keep the faith. We'll get through this together. Bye-bye.